Now let's look at the start of Chapter 3, Panoptcism, your assigned reading. This chapter also begins with a recount from history, from a time roughly 50 years earlier at the end of the 1600s. Here we see the more traditional term for patient in practice, the quarantining of the ill, a means of containing the spreading plague. Everyone is carefully watched, every movement is carefully controlled, right down to the then medical process of fumigating a living quarters with perfume. That was the best defense they had against the plague back then, controlling people's movements and perfume. Regardless, as Foucault observes, the plague is met by order. Its function is to sort out every possible confusion, that of the disease, which is transmitted when bodies are mixed together, that of the evil, which is increased when fear and death overcome prohibitions. Whew, now there's a long sentence. Let's break it down and get its full meaning. The plague is met by order. In other words, the response to this disease is an organized assault. Its function is to sort out every possible confusion. The function of the order is to sort out every possible confusion. That of the disease, and which is transmitted when bodies are mixed together. That of the evil, which is increased when fear and death overcome prohibitions. In other words, the plague is met by order, an assault, an organized assault, and its function, the organized assault's function, the order's function, is to sort out every possible confusion, to bring order to the chaos. That of the disease, that's one part of the confusion, and part of that part is that disease is transmitted when bodies are mixed together. And another part is the evil, which is increased when fear and death overcome prohibitions. In other words, defining the evil. Evil is defined as an increase of fear, which is caused by death, by the way, but an increase of fear and death that overcome the prohibitions, the means of order, the means of restraint, the means of quarantining, for example. So now put the whole thing together. The plague is met by order. Its function is to sort out every possible confusion, that of the disease, which is transmitted when bodies are mixed together, and that of the evil, which is increased when fear and death are overcome by prohibitions. Let's look at another sentence by Foucault. It lays down for each individual his place, his body, his disease and death, his well-being, by means of an omnipresent and omniscient power that subdivides itself in a regular, uninterrupted way, even to the ultimate determination of the individual, of what characterizes him, of what belongs to him, of what happens to him. Whew, now there's an even longer sentence. Let's break it down and get its full meaning. Speaking of the word it, let's start with that word. What is the it referring to? Well, if you look it up on page 197, what is cited at the end of this quote, you'd find that it is referring to the plague, which is actually the sentence we just analyzed, the plague. That sentence was before this one. So it, the plague, lays down for each individual his place, his body, his disease, and his death, and his well-being. That's what's happening there. And it's doing so by means of an omnipresent and omniscient power. Well, what do those words mean, omnipresent and omniscient? Omnipresent means present in all places at all times. Omniscient has two meanings, having infinite awareness and understanding, or possessed of universal knowledge or complete knowledge. Question is, does he mean all those meanings? That's something you'll have to decide. By means of omnipresent and omniscient power that subdivides itself in a regular, uninterrupted way. That's what this power is doing, subdividing itself in a regular, uninterrupted way, even to the ultimate determination of the individual. So no matter what, it does this. Of what characterizes him, that's what it's doing, to what it characterizes of him, of what belongs to him, and of what happens to him. So this uninterrupted way of this power, the ultimate determination of this power that's omnipresent and omniscient, is doing this in an ultimate determination. Okay, now let's put it together. It, the plague, lays down for each individual his place, his body, his disease and death, and his well-being. The plague does this, and it does it by means of an omnipresent and omniscient power that subdivides itself in a regular and uninterrupted way. This is perhaps the most difficult part, this purple-blue part. How can a plague be omnipresent? Well, it can be everywhere. That makes sense. Present at all places and all times. A plague is definitely that, no question. That's part of its definition. But this omniscient, to be all-knowing, to be in control, to be everywhere and knowledgeable. A disease doesn't have a knowledge, but so he's kind of doing a metaphor there. The idea that the plague knows where you are and knows how to get to you, and it's a mystery for us. He's playing metaphorical there. And then and it's so powerful with this quote-unquote knowledge, even to the ultimate determination of the individual, knows where you are, knows how to get you, of what characterizes that individual, knows how you're going to live your life, and knows how to get underneath that lifestyle and get you, and of what belongs to you, knows where to hide and where to get into your life, and what happens to you, knows how to kill you. So he's really kind of painting this portrait of this plague as this all-knowing evil. That's the point of the sentence. He's kind of giving you a metaphor. Actually, it is a metaphor. Now let's put these two sentences that we've been reading back together. The plague is met by order. Its function is to sort out every possible confusion. That of disease, which is transmitted when bodies are mixed together. That of evil, which is increased when fear and death overcome prohibitions. It lays down for each individual his place, his body, his disease and his death, his well-being, by means of an omnipresent and omniscient power that subdivides itself in a regular, uninterrupted way even to the ultimate determination of the individual, of what characterizes him, of what belongs to him, of what happens to him. Now, in your posts to the discussion board, I would like you to find other sentences of your own to quote, to post. Fish around for them and post them to appropriate topic threads, breaking them down for their meanings and how their collective meanings, when you put it back together, respond to that topic thread. Clearly, this fishing around for sentences to interpret and explain in the discussion board is a practice in reading. But remember, the better reader you become, the better writer you become. The two are ultimately part of the same process. Let's now address the concept of the panopticon. The panopticon is a model created by Jeremy Bentham, a thinker of the late 1700s and early 1800s. The basic concept is a ring of cells surrounding a central tower. The individuals in the cells cannot see those located in the tower. However, those located in the tower can closely watch the individuals in the cells. Thus, for example, guards can watch prisoners without prisoners knowing whether or not they are being watched. The generating of a paranoid feeling of being possibly watched, underscored by the possibility of punishment and/or shame, is usually enough to coerce obedience. Bentham called this the inspection principle, and it is still relied upon today in all sorts of ways with more contemporary technology, such as closed-circuit television cameras. Foucault's discussion of the panopticon, as well as of the inspection principle, is, in many ways, the symbolic heart of his entire book's argument. For him, the panopticon is a symbolic representation for the ways in which discipline and punishment are executed throughout much of the modern world. The panopticon is a tool for power, the observer over the observed, and panoptcism is the process of that power being processed, such as via institutions, the prison, the school, the hospital, the factory, the shopping mall, and so forth.